that's been failing hardworking Americans and resulting in a declining America on the world stage. You know, the American people are tired. We're tired of being told. We're tired of hearing from politicians in both parties that they'll get to solving these problems that our nation faces eventually, while they pile a mountain range of debt on our children and grandchildren. And as Ronald Reagan used to say, we're tired of being told that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better than we can plan them ourselves. You know, Donald Trump understands the frustrations and hopes of the American people like no American leader since that president, our 40th president. His heart resonates with the American people, their frustrations, with their aspirations. In a word, Donald Trump gets it. He's the genuine article. He's a doer in a game usually reserved for talkers. And when Donald Trump does the talking, he doesn't go tiptoeing around all those thousands of new rules of political correctness that are imposed by the national media. He just tells it like it is, straight from his heart and straight from his mind and straight to the American people. You know, the funny thing is the party in power seems helpless to figure out our nominee. And I'm talking about the media. You know what I'm saying? I mean, really, the Democrat establishment and the media, they all keep telling each other the usual methods will work against him. Something comes up. They say, now we got him. They keep thinking they've done him in, and then they wake up the next morning, and Donald Trump is still standing strong, stronger than ever before. That's the kind of resilience and strength that we want to see in the White House again. You know, they actually tell us that they look at this economy. Believe it or not, the morning after Hillary Clinton gave that speech, that long speech, I mean, I had as hard a time staying awake as her husband did. I mean, after that speech, we got up the next morning and found out that they'd rounded down the estimates about the growth in our economy. 1.2%, the slowest, weakest recovery since 1949. You know, they tell us this economy is the best we can do. Well, I don't know about you, Nevada. I say it's nowhere near the best we can do. It's just the best they can do. And we're going to show them how we can get this economy going when we elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States. You know, I come from a state that works. I really do. Back in the state of Indiana, we balance budgets. We just reported record reserves. Largest budget reserves in our history. That was after we just had the largest increase in education funding in Indiana history. We invested $2.5 billion in roads and bridges, health care, innovation, and as governor, I've cut taxes every year for the last 4 years, and we have more Hoosiers going to work than ever before in the 200-year history of our state. And let me tell you, fiscal responsibility, pro-growth policies, investments in ways that support our people is exactly the kind of no-nonsense leadership that Donald Trump is going to bring to the Oval Office in the White House in Washington, D.C. You know, to be around this man is to see a person who's never forgotten. He's never forgotten the hardworking men and women of this country. People that work with their hands, who grow the food, who build our roads and bridges, who tend to our sick, teach our kids, protect our lives and our property. In fact, gathered among us today in a very difficult time for people that wear the uniform are many people in law enforcement in this country. Would you join me in just showing our support and appreciation for all of the men and women who stand on the thin blue line of law enforcement in America? Let me tell you, Donald Trump will support the men and women in uniform. He will restore law and order to the streets of this nation. He will make sure our law enforcement officers have the resources they need to protect our family and go home safe to theirs. Donald Trump understands that the President of the United States is the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America. And so he will be. In 7.5 years of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's policies have challenged our economy at home, resulted in, seems like, in more divisions than we've ever seen in our country. But worse still, they have weakened America's place in the world. Terrorist attacks at home and abroad, grim and heartbreaking scenes from France just a few short days ago. A Catholic priest murdered in the pews of his own church in France. Attempted coup in an ally in Turkey, all attest to a world spinning apart. You know, history teaches us that weakness arouses evil. I would submit to you Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's foreign policy of leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, and the rise, rule, and reign of ISIS are a testament to this truth of history. We cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe. And on the world stage, Donald Trump will lead from strength from day one. Donald Trump will rebuild our military. And as no other in my lifetime, and no other in our lifetime, he will make sure that our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, and Coast Guard and their families have the support they need to do the work of freedom at home and abroad and come home safe. Been a lot of talk the last few days about American heroes, and that's always a good thing. As Donald Trump and I have both said, Captain Humayun Khan is an American hero. And Captain Khan and his family, like all Gold Star families, should always be cherished by all the people of the United States of America. Captain Khan gave his life on 8 June 2004 in Operation Iraqi Freedom. It's an extraordinary story. The captain waved away junior officers while a vehicle approached. He got them out of harm's way, and he walked toward the danger and cost his life. We honor him, and we will never forget his sacrifice or that of his family. In fact, I say that I'm very humbled that we are in the presence of another Gold Star family with us today here in Nevada. Their son, Lance Corporal Brandon C. Dewey, fell in eastern Al-Anbar province in the United States Marine Corps on 20 January 2006. I was over there around that time in my capacity as a member of Congress. I saw the way the Marines turned Al-Anbar around. It was extraordinary. Today, we honor the memory of Lance Corporal Brandon C. Dewey, United States Marine Corps, and we are profoundly honored to be joined by his mom and dad, Julia Dewey Conover and Scott Conover. Thank you for honoring us by your presence today, and God bless and comfort you. You know, our soldiers and our veterans know Donald Trump supports our troops and their families. He will rebuild the American military, and he will reform the VA when our soldiers come home and take the uniform off. I will tell you, in the midst of all the news on cable TV the last couple days, I want to say from my heart, as a father of a United States Marine myself, I understand. I understand and appreciate the attention being paid to Captain Khan's family and the honor that you just bestowed on Lance Corporal Dewey's family. What I don't understand is why the media maligned and continues to ignore the grieving mother of fallen Air Force veteran and diplomat Sean Smith, who fell in Benghazi. Pat Smith spoke at the Republican National Convention and was actually criticized by some of the same voices you're hearing a lot from in the national media in the last 48 hours. Well, I say, as a father of a serviceman, surrounded by so many veterans in the room, I say, let's demand that the national media listen to and honor all of the families of the fallen in this country and hear their voice in the debate over America's future. It's just so important to remember Hillary Clinton's record on foreign affairs. I mean, where Lance Corporal Dewey fell in Fallujah, the progress that was made in Iraq, it was decisions by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama who abandoned the gains that we'd made in Iraq after the 2008 election, created a vacuum in which ISIS was able to spawn and overrun the gains that had been won. It was Hillary Clinton who actually instigated the president's disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. And it was Hillary Clinton. It was Hillary Clinton who left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi, and after it was over said, "What difference at this point does it make?" Well, let me say, anyone who said that, anyone who did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Now, one other issue before I close. You know, as this election approaches, my friends here in Nevada, I want to remind you of the stakes in one other way. It's not just about our place in the world. It's not just about security and prosperity at home. It's perhaps even more significant that while we'll be choosing a president for the next 4 years, that president will likely set the course of the United States Supreme Court for the next 40 years. We've got to think about that. We've got to think about that. We all better think very carefully about what that means to our Constitution and the principles of limited government. I said before, over in Cleveland, elect Hillary Clinton, you better get used to being subject to unelected judges using unaccountable power to make more unconstitutional decisions. Okay? So let me say this. For the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of our Second Amendment, for the sake of all of our God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution and our Declaration, we must ensure that the next president making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States is President Donald Trump. You know, it seems like we've come across as I said a minute ago, a time of such great division in the life of our country. It seems like our leaders have almost become a version of cable television. You got a host in the middle, and you got the pro, and you got the con on everything. You know? It seems like we're in an adversarial time in the life of our nation, but you know what? That's really not the way I was raised. My grandfather got on a boat when he was about 24 years old and came to this country from Ireland. A legend in our family is that my great-grandmother bought him a one-way ticket. He wouldn't see her for 25 years. She bought him a one-way ticket and said, "You got to go there because there's a future there for you." He came to America, and he loved this country. He drove a bus for 40 years in Chicago, Illinois. He was the proudest man I ever knew. I was named after my grandfather. He watched his daughter marry. He watched his daughter marry some fast-talking salesman. They followed work down to a small town in southern Indiana, and they built a gas station business down there. Everything that matters. They built a good family and a good business and a good name. I mean, I really grew up with a front row seat to the American dream. And I was always convinced that, and remain to this day, that there's so much more that unites us in this country than would ever divide us. Our belief in freedom, our belief in personal responsibility, our belief in private property, our belief in the boundless capacity of every person through hard work to live out their dreams. Whenever I'm talking to grade school kids, a lot of times have them lean in, and I say, "Let me tell you the secret about America." And I tell them, anybody can be anybody. My family's a testament to that. The truth of the matter is, this is a very good time for us to remember what unites us as opposed to what divides us, to appeal to that which is stronger than party labels or political arguments. And chief among them is to remember that from the very outset of this nation, we have ever known ourselves to be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I would say to you, if like my little family, you're inclined to bend the knee, I just encourage you to do it in the coming 100 days. For all of our neighbors, all of our friends, all those struggling and facing challenging times at home and abroad. Because I truly do believe in my heart of hearts that what's always been true, that if his people who are called by his name will humble themselves and pray, he'll hear from heaven, and he'll heal our land. So my friends in Nevada, I say to you, I think we've come to another time for choosing. It's a time when we have to have faith. Faith in God and faith in the boundless capacity of the American people to make America great again. But we've got a choice to make. We've got a choice to make. If you want a president who will protect this nation, confront radical Islamic terrorism, and rid the world of ISIS, if you want a president who will restore law and order to the streets of this country and give our law enforcement men and women the resources they need and deserve to do the job and come home safe, if you want a president who will cut taxes, grow the economy, and squeeze every nickel out of that bloated bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., if you want a president who will roll back red tape, end the war on coal, and repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel, and if you want a president who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, we have but one choice. That man is ready. This team is ready. Our movement is ready. Let's work our hearts out for the next 100 days until we elect Donald Trump as the 45th President of the United States, and we will make America great again.